So I received a question via the website from someone called Vay, who asks, my question is, how do you know when a track is ready for mastering? Asking as an artist, producer with limited access to treated rooms and mixing expertise. I mean, it's a great question. And to answer it, this is the exact reason why I put together my free mix evaluation service. And basically, what the free mix evaluation service is, you send your track to me before we master it. I download it into this room. I then monitor it in here, right? I have the mixer expertise that you say you don't have, and I have the treated room that you say you don't have. This way, I then listen to your music with a fresh perspective, with no prior knowledge of the music. I listen to it as if it's the first time I'm listening to it, and I can tell you the exact things that are fundamentally wrong with the mix. Now, I will not start saying, oh, maybe add another dB on the snare, do this, do that, do this. I won't be going critiquing the mix in the sense that changing your creativity. Oh, I don't like that, I do like that. Music's subjective. No one should ever tell you, I don't like that, I don't like that. This is your art. This is the way you've produced your song. It's not the way someone else is producing their song. If they want to produce a song differently, go off, produce your song differently. But this is your song, and ultimately your song is your song, and it should be produced the way you want it. You intend a sound to sound like that because that's how you want it to sound. Who am I to tell you that that's wrong? If something is fundamentally wrong, though, I will tell you. And I will more listen to it in the sense that I will then go through, and if there's not enough headroom, for instance, I will say there's not enough headroom. You need to do this, 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 and this. Reduce the increase the headroom. Give us more headroom, and we'll be able to get a better result. Things like there's a pop or a click in the track, and I can audibly hear that. I would recommend you remove it, because once mastered, it's going to highlight it even more. Like there's a leak in the on the mic, and I can hear you stutter before you start singing, for instance. Little things like that, little things that you would have maybe overlooked, and I won't, because I'm listening to it from the perspective of someone who is listening to it fresh with no prior knowledge to the song. Also, being in a treated room, being in this room, it's going to translate perfectly to me, which means there might be things like, I don't know, the bass is fundamentally too loud, right? It's too loud. It's not a case of this is I want a loud bass. It's physically too loud for the rest of the song, which is going to cause your song to sound dull. That's something that I can then say, reduce the bass just by a couple of dB, just to give it a little bit more space, and then it will even itself out, and you'll get a better end result. Little things like that. And that's why I put together the free mix evaluation service, and lots of other studios have copied it, and it's a very successful thing, because the reason that I set up this thing and the reason that I came up with it was because I know what it's like to not have a treated room. I know I can go back to when I was 16, didn't have a treated room, didn't have the best listening environment, didn't have the best speakers, didn't have the best expertise. I know how hard it was to get someone with a treated room, with a good sounding system, with the expertise and knowledge of what is good and what is bad and what is fundamentally right and wrong. How hard it was to get someone like that to actually listen to my music and actually tell me, honestly, this is the reasons why you should be doing what you're doing. And then you can obviously correct it for next time, for instance, things like that. The other good thing about it is that by us listening to your songs and making sure that there are no fundamental errors in it, it's easier for us at the end. When it comes to mastering, we haven't then got to fight with these huge errors that are in the mix. We don't have to battle against those because they've already been fixed, right? So at that stage, we might send it back and say, fix this because of this, and this, and if it is a massive error that needs to be corrected, we will request that you sort it out and then send it back. But ultimately, the mix evaluation service it's a really good way of our clients to be able to just get the reassurance that their mix is where it should be, so that they know that there aren't any errors, there aren't any problems that are going to be problematic when mastering. Now, I stress that this is a service for our clients. This isn't a service for people who aren't our clients. So this is something that we provide our clients. Doing a mix evaluation takes time, and it's strictly for people who we work with, and we work with. Doing their mastering or their mixing for them. When it comes to mixing, you don't necessarily need to take advantage of the mix evaluation, because I'm evaluating the mix and making those edits in the mix stage. So it's not as important in the if you're submitting for mixing. Same as well for stem mastering. You don't necessarily need to have a mix evaluation on stem mastering, because with stem mastering, that's the reason why you send in for stem mastering, because with stem mastering, the engineer has the ability to correct all these errors. So if, for instance, the bass, like I said before, is 2 dB too loud and it's causing the song to sound dull, we have in stem mastering, we have the bass stem, so we can actually physically turn that volume down by 2 dB if need be. So yeah, how do you know? Right, so if you weren't going to submit for a mix evaluation, for instance, how would you know that your song is ready for mastering? I mean, there's no right and wrong answer to it. I guess the answer to the question is do you feel it's right? Do you feel that the song is right? Because this is why the mix evaluation service is so important, because if you don't feel it's right, then you have to get someone like myself to listen to it and tell you it's right. Otherwise, it is kind of guesswork when you're in an untreated room. And that's why I do all the mix evaluations in this actual room, because of that factor. So how would you know that it's right? It's difficult, because you would have the expertise and knowledge to know that it's right. And without that, it's very difficult for you to know that it is right. You've just got to kind of either guess or just kind of know that or just be happy with that's as far as I can physically take my song. That is where I can get my song. That is the sound that I can deliver, and that is what I can achieve. That kind of answers that question. If you're not using the mix evaluation, you're not doing that. It's then a case of, do you feel it's right? There's no real way of really testing it. I mean, I hear all these, for years and years, like decades, people have been banging on about the car test, and it's such a, it's I won't say it's stupid, but it is a bit stupid to go out and test your music in car. I don't like the idea of no professional goes outside and tests their music in cars. Car systems, they're not. It's kind of like the old, I'm going to go test it on a set of NS10s. I'm going to go test it on a hi-fi, things like that. I'm going to go test it in a car. Yeah, no, the problem you've got is a lot of people is they're testing their music in the car, for instance, and then they're going back into the studio and making adjustments on the mix based on what they hear in the car. And it's ridiculous. It honestly is. You shouldn't be adjusting a mix. It's like me. Say, for instance, I'm in a what I consider a 100% accurate room or 99.9% accurate room, right? Imagine if I get a mix sounding great in here, and then I go take it into the car, and I go, the snare's a little bit quiet. Well, that's because of the system in the car. That's not because the mix, the snare needs to be louder in the mix. It's because of the system in the car. You can sit there going, that bass is a bit bassy in the car. Well, is the bass a bit bassy in here? No, it sounds perfect in here. That's because the system in the car is a bit bassy. It's like, there's a bit of it sounds like it's distorting when that kick hits. Well, that's because the car system distorts at that volume, and turn the volume of the car system down a bit. Don't turn the kick down in here. It just, I've honestly never understood it. And the only thing that a car test is good for is, from my personal perspective, the only thing that a car test is good for is put your music on in the car, enjoy listening to it in the car, see how it translates onto other systems. The other thing is as well, with regards to like a car test and things like that, is it's people testing their mixes in a car. Like, all right, test your master to see if your master translates onto different systems, but don't why are you testing your mix? What's the point of testing the mix? The mix is not optimized to be played on various different systems. It's a mix that is mixed in the mix room. It's not designed to then translate onto other systems perfectly like a master is. The master is then ready to translate well across all devices. The mix doesn't necessarily do that, so it's not. There's no point to testing in the car. I mean, I know I've gone on a little bit of a tangent here with the car thing, but it's a real pet peeve of mine. People when they say, "I've done the car test," and it just sounds from a professional perspective. When we hear things like that as professionals, we just go, God, he don't really know what he's talking about. And you probably will get professionals who say, yeah, do the car test, but that's because they've been led down that route, and they've listened to too many other people saying doing the car test, and now it's just ingrained in them that they do a little car test. Anyways, to kind of summarize, how do you know when your mix is ready for mastering? You are someone like me. That's why I've got the mix evaluation service, because you become a client who's gonna send their track in for mastering, and you get this with our service. You get the fact that you can send a song in to us, give it to us, we will listen to it in an outstanding room, with outstanding speakers, that is 100% perfect in my eyes. It's an incredible sounding room, and this kind of listening environment, having expertise on your mix at the end of it before it goes to mastering, it's invaluable. It really is. It's so important, and it's so worthwhile taking advantage of. I mean, I don't. The thing is it's a service that I do for free for our clients, and it's not something that it's not something I technically get paid for, but I do it in my spare time. I do it after I finish my day's worth of work. I will go through, listen to all the songs, and it's just part and parcel of the mastering service that we provide. And I do this because I know it's how valuable it is to the client. And I also, like I said before, it's something that I never had, and I wish I'd have had when I was young and writing music, sending music out. I wish I had someone I could send it to, like myself, who had a treated room, who could monitor my music perfectly and actually critique it based on what is actually wrong, rather than sending it to a friend who's then listening to it on a pair of KRK speakers and going, your bass is a bit heavy. Well, your KRKs are a bit heavy in the low end, so you can't trust that sort of opinion, and that's all it is. That's an opinion at that stage. Because then you give it to someone on a pair of HS8s or something, Yamahas, and they go, "Oh, you ain't got enough bass in that." And it's like, well, your HS8s are a bit, they don't kick as much as other speakers. And then you've got things like, people could then say, you can then send it to another person, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I don't know, it's distorting. It sounds like it's a bit saturated and a bit distorted." And it's like, well, you're listening to it through a pair of laptop speakers, and it's like, there's so many different kind of bad monitoring out there, and that's why it's so important to have great monitoring, and as well as it's an opinion you can trust. I have nothing to gain. I have nothing to gain from saying to you, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. The only things I have to gain is that you then achieve a better mix that makes my life easier when it comes to mastering. So, I've got nothing to gain in the sense of that I want you to succeed. I want you to have the best sounding song. And if I can spend half hour of my own personal time making sure, that you have the best sounding song, then that's brilliant. So yeah, to summarize, send it in for a mix evaluation. That will give you the definitive answer of knowing whether your song is right and ready for mastering. The other option is, if you don't want to do that, just ensure that you have your song to as best as you can make it sound. And if you have it sounding the way you want it and it sounds great to you, then that's how you ultimately want it to sound. But yeah, I hope this answers your question. Any more questions? Send them in.